Good evening and welcome to the Monday, May 9, 2016 Board of Education meeting. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, in the interest of getting our student representatives on the road, why don't we just go to item 7, if that's okay with everybody? They look like they're projecting as if they have other things to do.
I know, I'm not sure.
I'm just guessing. Do you have any other things to do?
Not really. I finished my AP test today, so.
Oh, okay,
I'm
fine.
all set.
Okay, right.
No,
Put them at the back.
Oh, you should be. What was it in?
Crash.
I had U.S. history on Friday and biology today.
How'd that go?
Pretty well.
Good.
Thank you.
You got anything going on?
Yeah, I still have one more AP and Geo on Friday, and then I had Calc last week.
Oh, dear.
So
All right.
almost done.
Okay. All right. Well, let's turn to you then.
Sounds good. So at Melissa Jones, they just completed their SBOC test without any incidents, and it all went very smoothly and very well. Students felt they all did well, so that's very good. And the PTO held a Glow Family Fun Run 2 Saturdays ago, and it was good family fun for everyone. It had a nice fitness time for everyone to be active, and it was a fundraiser for the Melissa Jones Playground. And then their annual talent show is coming up this Thursday night at 6 p.m. So the students, parents, and teachers are very excited to see what the students' talents are and how they perform in front of their peers and the community. And then every grade now is collecting items for STEM math units, which I learned is a way of integrating science and math into a purposeful world-reach perspective way. And so, for example, the 4th graders were designing playground designs. The 3rd graders were designing a bridge. 2nd graders were designing ramps and roads. 1st graders were designing paper gliders. And the kindergartners were measuring and learning about frogs and bugs. So I think that's just a very interesting way to put math and science into perspective where they don't really have that at this point, which is good.
All right, and moving on to Calvin Leet. Last week, 33 student acts and 1 principal performed in the annual Calvin Leet School Variety Show. And the students demonstrated a very wide range of talents, including dancing, many musics, singing, and comedy. And a lot of students were a little nervous, but I know that they all took the risk and really impressed the crowd in the end. And then a group of 4th grade students are working on a challenging project to learn about investing in the stock market. And this seems like a very ambitious project to me. But in small groups, they are trying to grow $100,000 of seed money by learning about and applying investment strategies. So that's pretty interesting of them. And then for Earth Day, Calvin Leet students decorated paper grocery bags with earth-friendly messages and pictures. And then they brought these bags to Big Y and gave them to the customers. And I think they all really enjoyed that. Then moving on to Adams, they sent 6 two-person teams to the Southern Regional Debate Competition last week, and all the teams did very well, I've heard, and they all won at least 1 match. And then 1 pair will even advance to the semifinals in Hartford next week, so I'm sure we'll hear more about that next meeting to see how they did. And additionally, the track team performed very well against teams from East Haven, Madison, OLM, and Brantford at their meet at Polson last week. And Adams runners took first place in the mile, the 200 meters, and the shot put. Then the 8th grade band and jazz band gave an outstanding performance at their spring concert last Thursday evening. And then lastly for Adams, similarly to Greg's schools, they had the Smarter Balance testing ending Wednesday and then beginning on Thursday for 8th graders. Now to the high school. Last Monday, the seniors had decision day, so I know for me being a senior, it was very fun and exciting just to see where everyone's going, everyone wearing their shirts. And Mr. Macenti told us that over 90% of students are going on to 2-year and 4-year colleges, which is very impressive. And during this month, we're having all of the Honor Society inductions being held, and that includes last Friday we had National Honor Society where Greg was inducted, and then coming up, I know we're having the language honor societies, so French, Spanish, and Latin, and the International Thespian Society. And then similarly to this decision day, we're going to have a lot of other exciting senior events as the school year approaches, which includes senior prom, our outing to Holiday Hill, and Project Graduation. So we're all getting ready for that with a lot of fundraisers for Project Grading now, and everyone's very excited for those to happen.
And then also at the high school, I'm sure most of you, or I hope that most of you got to go see West Side Story. It went very well. I believe it sold out, if not, or most nights, if not all the nights, because I knew I couldn't get tickets at the end, which I was disappointed about. And that was a beautiful performance in our Performing Arts Center. And then, like I was mentioning earlier about the AP tests, they're winding down in their second week. They have 4 more days of them, and they've all gone very smoothly so far. Everyone has been very confident about how they did on them so far. Also around our campus, I'm sure you saw when you drove around, they're putting down grass and starting to work on fertilizing. So hopefully we'll have a nice, beautiful, or even more beautiful campus with our landscaping coming in soon. And also they're going to put in security cameras on the light poles around the parking lot. So that is going to be very good to keep our campus safe. And also, spring sports is winding down. I believe there's a girls lacrosse game going on right now. All of our teams have been doing very well, and I believe it's well into the second half of the season at this point. And also, last week we had our Teacher Appreciation Week. We had the National Teacher Appreciation Day on Friday, where I know the PTO was bringing in food for a teacher breakfast, so that went very well. And then also we have, to build off what Maddie was saying, a lot of class awards coming up for underclassmen and seniors, as well as a scholarship night. And I believe that's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Where are you going next year?
Oh, I forgot we didn't have a meeting last week or last month, but I recently decided to go to the honors program at the University of Delaware.
The Blue
Possibly,
Hens.
yeah.
How about that?
Very good.
Very
Thank
good.
you.
Terrific. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
For next meeting, can you, you were talking about the Melissa Jones Playground. If you can get information about how people can donate to that, we can kind of try to publicize it here a little bit, and maybe with Project Graduation as well, because I'm sure there are lots of opportunities to do that, but it'd be good to get maybe the word out a little bit. And how far are they on the playground? Do you have any ideas?
I'm not certain. I believe it's pretty far into phasing. I'm not sure if they actually started construction or anything, but I can email Ms. McCarthy and find out for
Okay.
you guys.
That'd be great. Thanks.
There is a pasta dinner on May 13th, so this coming Friday, depending on when we air at St. George's for Project
St. George?
Graduation
Okay, great.
at the hall.
Okay, great.
Also, I know there wasn't a lot of information on Cox, and it's worth noting that Cox is having its 50th birthday
That's right.
Wow.
this year, and they will be having a birthday party at Cox on Wednesday evening for parents. And
So Wednesday, what is that, 11th?
yes, from 5 to 7, the kids will be putting on a little musical performance, singing songs from 1966.
That wasn't 50
And there'll
years
be
ago.
no, sorry, maybe. And they will be having a community picnic.
That's right. Thank you for remembering that.
That's terrific, thanks. Okay, well, thank you all, and we'll see you, we have you for one more meeting, I gather, or 2? No, 1, right?
Yeah,
that's right. Wow. Wow. Great, man, okay.
Thank
Great.
you both very
Well,
much.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's go back to the order of the agenda. Item 3 is to approve minutes, the workshop meeting from March 28th, and the regular meeting from April 4th, and the workshop meeting from April 25th. Is there a motion to approve the March 28th workshop meeting first of all?
So moved.
Second.
Any changes, corrections? All in favor? Opposed? Okay. April 4 regular meeting, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
I do have one correction. Under 3.2 on the first page, I am noted as having voted in favor and abstained. I was not at the meeting, so I should be crossed out on the second line there and then remain as having abstained.
Oh, okay, I got it,
Yep.
right, okay.
I do get confused sometimes, but I'm quite sure I didn't do both.
Yeah, probably not. Okay, any other corrections? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? And then the April 25 workshop meeting, is there a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Second, okay. Any changes, corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 4, public forum for topics on the board agenda. Anybody? No? Dr. Myers, you were the reviewer of the expenditures for the month?
I was, and we went over them during the operations committee, but in summary, the net expenditures in April of 2016 was $5,088,195.44. There was also revenue of $14,189.10. Netting it out as total expenditures of $5,102,384.54. There were discussion about the expenditures, and we went over them carefully, and there was nothing of major significance that we need to bring to the board.
Okay. So that's a motion to approve those expenditures?
It sure is.
All right, second?
Second.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Recuse.
Okay. Anything else on expenditures for the month? Probably not. Communications, anybody have any communications? We did, I think we all got a couple of budget-related communications. We can talk about that maybe under your report.
Yep.
Anything else? Anything? No, me neither.
Just lots of raves about West Side Story.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, did everybody go? Yeah, that was
Yes, yeah.
fabulous. A couple of people said, that's a college-level production, and it really was. I mean, if that had been your college, you would have said, okay, right? It was fabulous.
I have to say that, as one of the two veterans on this board from the beginning, and when we began to talk about a high school, to see that production brought tears to my eyes. It was everything we expected and wished for at plus and more. It was wonderful.
There were a lot of very happy kids. There were a lot of very happy parents. There were a lot of very happy grandparents. There were a lot of very happy neighbors. Yeah, it was fabulous. Yeah, fabulous. They did a great job.
I would also say I was on the Disney trip, the band
Oh,
trip,
yes.
and
Yes.
there may have been one very loud member of the audience that was a principal there, which was very nice. Nice. Anyways, it was wonderful. They did a great job. It was really neat to see the, Guilford High School performing on the sign in Disney World, or Disney Springs as it was. They did a great job. They sounded great, and it was really neat.
Terrific. Well, and they've started rehearsing now for James and the Giant Peach, right? At least,
May 20th?
yeah, so it's coming up. It's pretty soon.
Youth and Family Services put on their performance of Shrek, which was also a huge success. So yes, it's been an exciting spring. Yep.
Good.
Okay, so do you want to go to Dr. Freeman, your report, start off with the budget update?
Sure, I'll start with the budget update. You are all aware that our budget did not pass at the last referendum. We have been back to the Board of Finance, who has made adjustments to our budget. I want to say right from the start that the Board of Finance was very collaborative, very supportive in the presentation of our initial budget, and they have been so in the adjustments that have been made to our budget moving forward as well. The Board of Finance did reduce our budget by $150,000. The budget returns to referendum on May 17th. During their meeting, they gave Mr. Bloss and I an opportunity to speak to the reductions. They asked a lot of questions for us, and they gave us the opportunity to explain that we believe that we will be able to make recommendations to this board and that you will be able to adjust your budget to absorb those reductions without significantly impacting student programming, staffing, class sizes. So once the budget passes referendum, we will have recommendations for you, and we do believe that we will be able to absorb those reductions. I think it's important for the community to understand that this remains essentially programmatically the same budget that we brought forward. It does not include reductions to programming. It doesn't include increased class sizes. And I would continue to encourage community members to go out and to vote for this budget on May 17th. The adjusted budget that sits before you now becomes an increase year over year of 1.73%. And again, I believe we've planned for this year. We knew that we were building up to a frugal year in budgeting this year. We have work on the table in front of us that we can continue to to execute. I believe it's a positive budget. I believe the Board of Finance has been very supportive. I just encourage community members to go out and vote and support this budget as we move forward. I don't know if there's any other questions that I can answer for board members.
Any questions? Well, there's not, there's really nothing for us to vote on yet.
No,
So,
because we have to wait.
right. But no, I think, I think you've summarized it, and I think the presentation that was made, the first version of the budget, I think was a responsible budget. This one, obviously, by definition, has to be a responsible budget as well. It is. I did actually go back to compare it to some of the past increases. This is the second lowest since 1994. So the only one that was lower was, I think, in 2008, which was a little over 1%. This one is 1.7%. So this is easily one of the well, it's the second lowest out of 20-something years worth of increases, but it does preserve the programming, and I think that's always been our focus. We've tried to, the budgets matter in programming, they just do, and we've made very conscious decisions about class sizes. We've made very conscious decisions about professional development. We've made very conscious decisions about materials and technology and resources. And I think probably we're unanimous on this board that we don't really want to turn the clock back to where we were 20-something years ago with class sizes and technology and resources and professional development. We've come too far. And so I think we all echo your urging that people research the budget, take a look, but then actually go out and vote. It was not, I think a little over 2,000 people voted, which is, I think, about a quarter of the people that voted, or maybe a little more that voted.
14% of the eligible voters.
I was just thinking about comparing it to the primary, though. I think the primary was probably somewhere around 2,000, 4,000, a little over, between 5,000 and 6,000. So,
Yeah.
A third of the people that voted on the budget, and then obviously the non-affiliateds were not even eligible to vote in the primary. So a third of the town was knocked out from anyway. I mean, I think we all hope that there is a strong turnout and that people support it. So, okay.
And thank you again for all of your work on the budget. The next item I will turn over to Mr. Macenti, but we were just complimenting the Disney trip this year. We have in front of you a request for a overnight out-of-country field trip for next April break. We would like to see our performing groups travel to Ireland over the next April break. While it is not a requirement that the board act on this, it's a requirement that I bring it to your attention. It has been your tradition to act on these field trips, and so it's in front of you tonight. It is here for your information, but in the past you have taken a motion to approve trips of this nature.
We have 110 students that are interested in attending, 25 adults that would like to chaperone the trip, and another 40 additional parents who would just like to come along on the trip as well. They're building in insurance money into the cost per student. When I met with the appropriate people, I just cautioned them that a trip like this could be taken right out from underneath us the day before the trip if something were to happen that put our students in jeopardy, in another country. So they understand that, so they decided to move forward with an insurance policy as well, and that's included in the cost. It's perfect timing for our school, going international. I mean, we're on the cusp of becoming international community ourselves. So it's a great opportunity for our kids to go abroad. Yes.
Sorry, Mr. Macenti, so the music department, is it one of our performing groups?
It's Kevin Buno, and it's all choral. It's all vocal.
It's a choral. Okay,
yes.
that's what thank you.
And Carol Odd, who's here as well, will be going as our school nurse, and Kevin will be the prime mover.
Sounds exciting.
These have been wonderful opportunities for our students in the past, and we would, again, we're bringing it to your attention, and we're inviting your approval.
What is the estimated cost per student?
$2,800. It's departures on Thursday, April 6th. They return the 13th, so it's Thursday to Thursday. They'll be missing 2 days of school, but it coincides with an international choral festival in Dublin. So we'll be performing with students from around the world. And that's why they're leaving a little early.
I think it's good that they're including an insurance policy.
Yes.
A couple of years ago.
We're going to have to do that all, I think, from here on in.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, there was a volcano that's unpronounceable from Iceland that exploded
Yes.
and
I
prevented
remember
air,
Right.
so the kids couldn't get home for 24 hours. So it's good.
So is that a motion to approve the request?
Sure is.
That's what I thought.
I'll second that.
Any other questions or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you, Mr. Messeni.
Thank you all, and thank you, Mr. Macenti. The student representatives began to steal some of Dr. Keene's thunder, but we did want to give you a current update where we are with assessments in the district.
So I have a report in front of you, kind of a summary on the front that just shows you how far we are in the process. Most all of the elementary schools and Baldwin are close to completion of the Smarter Balance ELA and math and the math performance task. Almost all the students, too, that are eligible for the Connecticut alternate assessment have completed, at least in those schools. Adams, like she mentioned earlier, 7th grade is doing their last team beginning today, so they'll finish on Wednesday. 8th grade will begin on Thursday this week. Everything has gone very well. This does give you kind of a summary of where we are. Most of these that are not at 100% are just makeups, students who were sick or needed, or haven't finished, need more time. And that's good. We've been in the schools every day observing. You see a picture of a little girl taking her test on the floor.
What Smarter Balance assessment looks like.
And I do have all the backup information. This information is testing as of Friday, so it does not include anything that was completed today. But it's going very well. The students seem to be very relaxed. They thought it was kind of cool. They didn't want to, it's kind of like, they said, it's kind of like a video game.
Oh, great.
I know, that's right. But they did want to persevere. I'll tell the story of two little girls in 4th graders at Calvin Leet, and their class went to recess, and they said, wait a minute, I have to finish this problem. I'm not finished with this problem, because they didn't want to stop in the middle of it. And she goes, I'm so close. I can't stop. And so I waited with the two girls so that they could finish their problem.
That's great.
And it was exciting.
Which does point out one of the ability to integrate this into the regular school day, because it's an untimed test, because the assessment is individualized for students, something like that can happen. And if this were the old regime of CMT, the students would have been
Put
told,
your
put
pencil
down
up."
your pencils, time is up, and the materials would have been taken away from you, rather than two girls who get to continue working on a problem because they really think it's fun. And I believe the story ends with one jumping up and
Yeah.
screaming, I got it, I got it. So principals are pleased. It integrates into the day. It's easy to have one group working on it. Doesn't have to stop the whole school for
Right.
everybody to assess at the same time. It's been going very well. In year 2 of our formal administration.
So, based on the results so far in terms of participation, do we have any group that looks like it's going to be out of line with the state guidelines of how much participation we have to have?
It doesn't look like at this point
Good.
that we're going to have anyone below the 95%.
Good.
We have a few refusals, not very many at all, only 3 in the elementary schools, 3 parents, and 4 parents at the middle grades. And we have worked with them. We're still hopeful that they will reconsider and allow students to test, because the students haven't seemed to mind at all. So, principals are speaking with those parents right now. So the way it looks right now, unless we have some problem, we should be well above the 95%
Good.
participation rate.
Do you anticipate any change in the timing of the results, or those?
I anticipate that they'll be sooner, but typically
Only because they
can-
couldn't be later.
Yeah, right.
Um,
Yeah, a little bar.
I do think they'll be sooner, especially without the language arts
Right.
performance task.
Right.
However, the problem is the window doesn't close until June the 10th. So we are going to be out of school at the earliest possible date that, we would get them. So parents probably wouldn't get results until when they come back in the fall.
Okay. When is the last day of school? Do you know?
21st.
Thank you.
Okay, excellent. All right. Anything else on SBAC? Okay.
Great. The last item we have for you tonight, I know that Mr. Gurnham updated you on some facilities items in your previous meeting. I do want to update you on just a few here, and again, the students preempted some of these. Here at the high school, we are moving into some of the final stages. In fact, we are preparing for O&G Fusco to remove their trailer from the site. They're making plans to remove their trailer. At this point, we are engaging in final paving and line striping, planting and seeding. All the final landscape work is taking place over the next few weeks. The building committee has bid for the turf field out, and they have priced out 2 alternate fills for the field. It is being priced out with the traditional crumb rubber that continues to be supported by DPH. It's being priced with a coated rubber product. The idea being that the rubber is encapsulated, and therefore any concerns around off-gassing would be limited, and it's being priced with a coated sand fill as well. That's really the last significant item that sits before the building committee before they begin moving into their closeout procedures. They'll be getting costs back and making a final decision on go or no-go and what fill product to use when that information comes back to them, and I'll keep you filled in. That should be in fairly short order. The last item I wanted to bring to your attention is also here at the high school. We had notified the board and parents, students, and staff members here about radon levels here at the high school, and we had told you that the radon mitigation system that was installed was in fact blocked. The blockages have been cleared. There are 3 systems in the school that vent from below the slab to above the roof line. All 3 of those systems are up and functioning now. Air is flowing through all of those systems, so we feel that we have a much better condition than we did previously. Radon canisters are in the building today as we speak. Those canisters will be collected in the next few days. The numbers will be processed, and we will share the results of the radon testing with you and with members of the high school community. While it is not an official test, you're only officially allowed to test for radon between November and March. We're interested. We want to make sure that the corrections we've made to the system are bearing fruit, and it will certainly point us in the right direction. Regardless of the results, we'll certainly then officially test again come next November to make sure that we meet all the requirements. But we're pleased the firms were able to correct the problem quickly, and we've got air venting properly throughout the building. I'm confident that we'll see improvement in those numbers when the tests come back. I'll inform you as soon as that happens.
Why are we only allowed to test between November?
I believe it has to do with testing during seasons where you're sure that the building is closed and you're not
Have
you're not
windows open.
artificially
Yeah, you don't have
ventilating.
windows.
Okay.
You want to have it in a closed
The short
condition.
answer is because the government says so.
Well, that part I had figured
The
out. I
long
was
answer
wondering if
is,
there
I
was a
think,
logic
because-
behind it. Yeah,
Open
no,
windows.
that makes sense. No, that makes sense. I mean,
But
you're,
it is, it's a climate-controlled building. We don't run with a lot of open windows, so I
well,
will
and
have.
given this experience, it certainly is in our best interest to.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll have
absolutely.
a high degree
No,
of
you wouldn't want
confidence.
to
Yeah,
wait.
yeah.
You
No,
wouldn't
no,
want to wait
that's
until
right.
November.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was no cost to the district.
No, there was no cost to the district. This was all borne by the construction firms. I give them a lot of credit for quickly diagnosing the concern, and then they remediated the concern rather quickly. No cost to the district.
Good.
Terrific.
And that concludes my report for this.
Okay. Anything else for Dr. Freeman? Anybody have any questions or comments? Okay. All right. Item 9 on the agenda is the board agenda. 9.1 is several personnel items. We have 6, what is that, 6 or 7? Seven retirements, and then 4 other resignations. So let's first do the resignations for the purpose of retirement. And this would be from Nancy Mulvey, Adams Middle School Special Ed, 17 years. Kathleen Fiorentino, Jones, 46 years.
46 years
Wow.
of service.
46 years at grade 2 at Jones. Gail Whitney, first grade at Jones, 16 years. Francie Katanik, Cox, speech and language pathologist, 26 years. Rebecca Riggio, health at Adams, 44 years.
Wow.
Raymond Tardieu, technology, 39 years at the high school. And Mary Dudley, music at Jones and Leet, 24 years. Boy, that's a lot of service.
That's
Isn't it?
Significant history and service represented here.
I did some quick math, 212 years.
That's older than you.
Not quite as old as.
See, I think that might maybe a place you don't want to go. Just speculating, but in any event, is that Mr. Kazin, a motion that we accept those resignations with our deep appreciation? Is this moved and seconded?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Well, that's obviously well-deserved, well-earned by each of these people, and I'm sure you will express our gratitude for their years of service.
I'll share your appreciation.
And then there are 4 resignations and others, not for retirement. William Wilson at Adams, Leanne Susi at Cox, Samantha Talmadge at Cox, and Scott Gregory at Cox as well. So is there a motion to ratify those resignations?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
So we've got some hiring to do, apparently, a little bit. Now that we are reducing some staff positions, though, so this, there's going to be a little bit of...
Right, this budget includes reduced teaching positions, and again, we talked about reductions in the budget. This may give us an opportunity to absorb some of that. I'll be able to report more clearly to you, but it does result in more hiring than we had anticipated needing to engage in.
9.2 is to approve a donation of $2,978 from the Guilford High School Baseball Boosters. They are going to pay the salary of an assistant coach if we approve the donation. Is there a motion that we do so?
So moved.
Second.
Any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And again, you'll express
I will
our
share
thanks
your
on that.
thanks.
Yes. 9.3 is to submit, to act on the submission of our IDEA grant, which is for Section 611 funds, and that is excess costs associated with the provision of special ed, $664,847, and also IDEA Section 619 funds, which is preschool special education ages 3 through 5, $20,525. The total application would be $685,372. Is there a motion that we submit that grant proposal?
So moved.
Second.
Questions? Dr. Keene, is there anything else we should know about this? Is this,
No, this is pretty much an entitlement grant, but you have to apply for it, and you do have to monitor how the money is expended, and it is to provide additional services for students who are eligible for special education services or special education preschool. Typically, we use this for materials and supplies. There are some staffing numbers. Some of the teachers are paid through the grant, and some of the paras, but for the most part, it is for additional materials and supplies. Assistive technology is typically in there. Professional development is also in there.
Is this something that we routinely are granted?
Yes.
Okay.
This is a federal grant.
Oh, okay, so,
It runs through the state, but it is part of the federal
Okay.
IDEA.
We prepare the paperwork annually. There should be thanks to Ginny Brown and Linda Trudeau and some help from Terry Fiandella in putting this together. It's an annual exercise.
okay, so this is the 16-17 school year?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any other questions? All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you. The next item is 9.4 custodial supply bid for 16-17. Did we talk about that in operations?
We did.
Okay. You want to summarize it?
Sure. This is a conglomerate bid of 82 items from different vendors that in the past, rather than go over all of them individually, we have put them together and are authorizing the business department to accept the lowest bid for each item. So the request is to approve the process of awarding this at the lowest bid.
Rather than having us return with 82 individual
Right.
bid approvals for you.
Excellent idea. So that's the motion?
That's the motion.
Okay.
Second.
Any other questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. 9.5 is to receive recommendations from the policy committee relating
Yes.
to dining services.
Yes, we have 3 new policies as receive items tonight. These are all, well, 2 of the 3 are based on kind of CABE recommendations. They often provide us with really helpful guidance in terms of how to word our policies. The first is meal charging. What this does is it addresses what happens, and particularly when we have kids who are using school lunch accounts, and that lunch account hits 0 before a parent or guardian is able to replenish it. We always make sure that children have lunch, but if the amount goes below $10, there is a particular simple meal that the child is given, and parents are kind of given notice that that's the situation. But just to be clear, kids are always fed if they come and they don't have a meal and there isn't money in the account. But it does allow us then to work hard to make sure that we get parents and guardians to come in and make sure those accounts are replenished. The second, does anyone have questions about this?
Is this something that happens on a regular basis in our district?
I think there is, I'll speak and then if Jason wants to add, I think there is a small problem with this happening, and so and enough to require that
We have to
that
have
there's
a
a policy
policy. Okay.
that addresses the concern.
Yeah, frequently enough that the board wants to ensure that no student goes through a school day without having the opportunity to receive lunch, but
Yeah,
also
okay.
that we're being fiscally responsible. And so it's a CABE recommendation, and it's a common policy for boards to adopt to ensure that those two things don't ever get confused and don't ever become exclusive of each other.
It's also required by the state.
Okay.
2 questions, Dr. Balistraci. The policy would define it as a particular sandwich, a cheese sandwich, fruit and milk. Is that meant to be literally that?
Yes.
As policy?
Yes.
And then secondly, I'd suggest just striking the words, after alternate meals, just strike from the word "are" to the next line to the word "but." So just strike out "are not clearly defined in federal and state regulations, but."
Alternate meals are,
So it would read, alternate meals refer to a meal served to a student. That's a good suggestion.
Okay.
okay. Any other questions or thoughts?
One thought, there are some children who are sensitive to milk and milk products. So I think that if we're going to offer something to them, it should be a protein sandwich generically, rather than specifying cheese.
You could add
What
that
if we
something
inserted just
appropriate.
cheese and then parenthetically inserted or comparable?
That's fine.
Yeah.
That's why I asked that first question. That's it.
Okay, so this is just a receive tonight, so
Yep.
with those suggestions, we can put it on the agenda for next month for
Terrific.
further consideration.
The second, dining services procurement code of conduct. This is, again, modeled on a CABE proposal. They had several that we could choose from. On page 1, the highlighted sections are sections that we added. They simply refer to another policy in our handbook. And on the second page, when you see things crossed out, These are the CABE policy numbers, and they have been replaced with our own policy references.
Okay. And I'll add that this is a required
Yes,
policy as well.
all three of them are too, right?
Nice that the state is making sure that we give cheese sandwiches to people.
Yep.
Great.
And then the third, again, dining services, professional standards for dining services personnel. My comments are the same. The things that are crossed out or things that are highlighted are simply our additions or corrections to the K policy so that it most applies to our dining services. So again, these are receive items. If people read through them and have questions, certainly people have them now, but between now and next month, certainly let Jason or I know and we can address them.
Okay, any comments, questions? Okay, then we'll just carry these over to next month. Thank you. All right, that finishes the board agenda, the committee reports, policy committee, anything else you're looking at?
We are looking at, I think I reported last month, but it's worth repeating. We did get to meet with Chip Dorwin, who made himself available to us as he is working so diligently on transportation routes for next year. He wanted to consult with us going over our transportation policy to make sure that he was working from a document that was most useful, but also was able to provide us with some information which we might want to consider that he's learning as he goes through that. I'm looking at Jason because I feel like I'm missing something else.
That's the primary focus for
Right.
this spring. We're also waiting for the legislative update from the
Yes,
session that almost closed.
Well, it did close, and then it's just got to be reopened.
Right, that's right.
It closed,
That's
it just
right.
didn't finish.
Yeah, right. Never ending.
I should say, though, as long as we're mentioning that, in terms of there have been so many different proposals that have come out of the General Assembly relating to the budget that I know there's a real lack of certainty among the members of the public about how is it going to affect Guilford, and I think it's fair to say that the package that at least is being reported as coming out of the General Assembly likely next week will actually not affect Guilford in any very significant way at all. There will be somewhat of a reduction in our ECS and transportation grants of about $180,000 approximately, but then there's also going to be an increase from in the municipal revenue sharing aid of somewhere around, I forget, 500,000 or something in that area, but it's actually going to be a net increase over this year, subtracting out the ECS, which goes to the town side. That doesn't come to the Board of Education, but also the municipal revenue sharing. It'll be if this proposal passes, then there will be a net increase in the 16-17 fiscal year compared to the 15-16 fiscal year, which I don't think anybody would have bet their house on a couple of months ago.
Right.
But no, that I think we could all be very comfortable with that and very, very satisfied with the work that our delegation, all three of our two representatives and our senator have done in trying to make sure that our voices were heard. So no, it could be a lot more pressing, and so right now we're in pretty good shape. Operations Committee, is there anything else that you talked about?
There were two other things. One was the lighting around the field, the athletic field.
Which field? Here?
Here.
The
high
existing
school,
turf
the
football field?
existing
Oh, okay.
turf field. The poles have really exceeded their life expectancy, and it is time to examine replacement. While we're replacing, we also wanted to look at the actual lighting itself, the bulbs, the scatter to protect our neighbors so that they're not lit up at night. And we got an estimate that in order to accomplish that, it would cost about $300,000.
370.
Thank you. That's about.
It's about 4.
We are examining whether it is feasible to use some of the previously bonded monies for other similar projects in the district, and we don't have the answer yet. But if not, then we need to look at how we can finance this through our own operations budget. The first priority would be to see if we can use existing bonds. It would come with a 25-year warranty, and they would replace any bulbs and so on and so on. The poles would be made out of metal and not wood, so that it would last longer than the current one. Second item we looked at was to examine and set a policy really for rental fees of our facilities, gyms, performing arts space, and other space, and we discussed proposals presented by the administration for that purpose. That would have a 3-tiered pricing system for nonprofit in Guilford activities.
Nonprofit outside and then.
Nonprofit outside and for-profit outside. The nonprofit internal Guilford would have a fee of 0. So that's a good thing.
Okay, so that's just something you're going to be, it'll be on the agenda moving forward?
Yep.
Okay. All right, and I think we did get some budget projections that at least as of now, it looks like we'll be within our appropriated budget for this current fiscal year, the 15-16 fiscal year, and
Correct.
maybe likely to be a small, relatively small, but nonetheless,
Close within our budget, correct.
extant, if surplus, so, good.
Let's see.
Curriculum Instruction and Assessment Committee, we did meet, but we have actually an exciting meeting coming up of that. Do you want to just mention what that is?
Sure. On May the 24th, which is a Tuesday night, our IFL fellow, who is like our consultant in mathematics, has been working with all of the administrators on mathematics leadership so that principals and everybody understands what the research says are the best kind of lessons and designing lessons for thinking. And so he is actually going to be working with this board so that you will actually see some of the work that we've done and participate as mathematicians. So get ready.
Almost always.
But it is a very exciting evening is planned, but I think it will be good for you to know what we've been working on and have a better understanding of some of the challenges and the opportunities in mathematics. Also, I might want to mention that I did forward the ed reports that was just released where the Bridges resource got the most favorable report. In fact, it was the only resource in this last round that met their criteria for every single category, which was pretty amazing. So
We weren't surprised, but we were excited.
we were very excited because it hadn't been evaluated. You remember when we were getting resources, Ed Reports was it's like a clearinghouse. They're evaluating resources to help support core standards because everybody was just putting a label on the front of their products. And so this group, outside evaluators, were really looking at all kinds of products and just showing the public so we could make better decisions. And the results from Bridges was very, very positive.
So our evaluation committee, it seems to me they ought to get a
Did a
copy
nice
of
job.
that report.
Absolutely.
They came to that conclusion 2 years before the federal government
Yes.
and the education department did.
And has already reached out to Maria
I was
Carreri
just-
and thanked her and congratulated her for the great
You
work.
actually, you really ought to send them a copy of the report, the committee members, because they worked really hard on that.
They worked
Yes.
And
very hard.
as I recall, it was
Yeah.
not open and shut.
No, it
something
wasn't.
that,
It took
There was
almost
a
a
lot
year.
of discussion.
That's a
about
great suggestion.
I will. I'll send that out. But I thought
think
our
it
last.
also ought to be posted on our website, because
Oh.
a lot of the community people came and voiced their opinions about.
I agree with that. I agree.
Can do that.
Yeah, I think Lori could make a news item out of that.
And we
That's
can make a
also-
link
Put it
to
in the compass
report.
maybe or
It's
something.
another great
Yeah.
suggestion, yep.
Good. What else, Dr. Keen? Anything else? Were you?
No, I think we had a good meeting 2 weeks ago. It was mainly around social studies and, looking at other forms of reading and social studies and really looking at what makes it authentic, what makes it real. And we are working on the social studies curriculum right now. We are hoping that it will be ready to present to the board in September.
Well, I think we probably also ought to mention that we're in the early stages of doing a very thorough, or hopefully a thorough analysis about homework and policy and practice and what works, what doesn't, what's fair, what's not fair. It has obviously been a subject that is a matter of no small discussion in every home in Guilford that has school children. So that's something that we're going to work cooperatively and collaboratively with teachers and parents and try to figure out if we can settle on a coherent, rational, thoughtful, productive approach that meets all of the interests that need to be met, which are multiple, obviously. And that's
Students in third grade are currently wrestling with this topic, and I know because I keep getting invited to view their Google Docs as they're working on them in class, and so I am watching these opinions grow and take shape every day as they invite me in. It's really interesting to be able to look at what's being written in a classroom from my inbox as I get invited into the Google Docs. It's been very interesting.
Building committee, you've mentioned it,
I think I gave the update already.
Okay. Town committees, anything town committee-wise?
Land Acquisition Committee did not meet.
Okay. All right.
Pension and standing building was fine.
Okay. And Dr. Moore is not here this evening, so we don't have a report from the Learn Board of Directors. So public questions? Ms. Carlson, do you have any questions? All right. We do actually have a little bit of an executive session tonight. It's not going to be very long, but there's a little bit of an update. So the executive session is on negotiations. We are actually either starting or preparing for negotiations with our paraprofessional and clerical bargaining unit, our custodians, our food service bargaining unit, and the teachers, the Guilford Education Association. So it's going to be a little bit of a busy summer for us, but that's part of the deal. So is there a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay. We will come into public session only for the purposes of adjournment. There will be no more public votes this evening other than the vote to adjourn. So thank you all.
Suzanne, Amy is going to take